So please sit in swastikasana, so just loose cross-leg pose on your pillow, a blanket or block or anything, just to give you some lift up onto the sitting bones. And then once you've done that, please just change the cross of the legs to your non-first choice cross, and then pull the buttock flesh out of the way on either side, so you can hopefully feel the sit bones pressing down into the floor. And you think of reaching the sit bones down as the crown of the head lengthens up towards the ceiling, just to get some length in the spine. And then bring the fingers to the floor just beside you and press down lightly into the fingertips, and draw the elbows together behind you, just to help open the chest. And once you've got that support for the spine, then bring the palms into Namaskarasana. So palms, fingers touching, thumbs just resting lightly against the breastbone. And then please close the eyes to begin the class. And once the eyes are closed, then draw your attention to your breath, so beginning to notice your normal inhalations and your normal exhalations. And allow the lower part of the abdomen to be free, so don't grip that back to the spine, just let it be free. And when you allow that to happen, then it gives space for the diaphragm to do its work. So just noticing your normal inhalations and exhalations. And as you keep the attention on the breath, just see if you can allow the eyes to soften, the jaw, the lower teeth just released away from the upper teeth, and the throat to be soft too. Just seeing if you can feel that slight sense of extension of the spine each time you breathe in. And then keep the lift in the chest and the spine, but slowly nod the forehead in the direction of the fingers. Keep the eyes closed as you release the palms to the inner knees, and on an inhalation, slowly open the eyes and look up. And then please come to stand in the middle of your mat. So stand with the feet together today in Tadasana. So balls of the big toes touching, inner heels touching. And then press down into the four corners of the feet. So ball of the big toe, ball of the little toe pressing down, outer heel and inner heel. And once you feel the four corners of the feet pressing down, then lift the toes and try and create space between the individual toes and length as you lengthen them back down onto the mat. And then once more, lift the toes. Try not to look down at the toes. Stay looking forward on the horizon, and think of just lengthening the toes away from you as you release them back down onto the floor. And then just to remind you, in Tadasana, be careful that your weight, your pelvis isn't coming forward and the weight is in the front of the feet. You want to really think of pulling up the thigh muscles, the muscles above the kneecap to tighten, the middle of the thigh and the top of the thigh, all sucking back to the bone. And as you achieve that, careful that it doesn't push the tailbone behind you. So you want to think of the tailbone lengthening down towards the heels. And then try to lift the ribs, or lengthen, lift in the sense of lengthening the ribs, the sides of the waist towards the armpits. And then just roll the shoulders back gently to help open the chest. The arms are just long by your side. Careful not to stiffen into the hands or the wrists. And once you're in Tadasana, just bring the right arm out to shoulder height. Roll the shoulder to turn the palm towards the ceiling, and then reach the arm towards the ear, towards the ceiling. And once it's there, just bring the fingertips of the other hand to the tricep area, this area here, the outer upper arm muscles, and roll those muscles in, and then let the left hand go. So that action just helps to keep the arm long, but not locked. And then release that arm down by the side, and then bring your left arm to shoulder height. Pause there And really think of the shoulder rolls back to help turn the arm. Include the shoulder in the turning of the arm. Bring the arm towards the ceiling, and then just use the other hand to remind that flesh, train it to, just as the thigh muscles were sucking back to the bone, and then release the hand down by the side. And then release that arm down, and then a little bit more quickly the right arm comes up and then back down, and then the left arm, roll the shoulder, extend the arm towards the ceiling, release it back down, and now think of both arms coming to shoulder height, roll both shoulders to turn the palms, and then extend both arms up towards the ceiling. And then release them down by the side. And now just bring the right arm forward this time to shoulder height, and then just monitor the ribs, the legs, so you keep the thigh muscles engaged, tailbone descending down as you begin to extend the arm up by the ear again. And I can definitely feel, if I was to let this all go, I'd go into a back bend. So if that's the case for you, see if you can just keep the ribs knitting together at the front of the body as you extend the arm up. And then release that arm down, and then left arm, bring that arm to shoulder height first. Pause there just so you reconnect with the ribs and the legs, and then extend the arm towards the ears. Good. And then release that arm down by the side. And now think of bringing both arms forward to shoulder height. Wrap in the outer upper arm muscles, and here you have to be doubly careful now, taking both arms up, that the movement of the arms doesn't take you into a back bend. So if you find that happening when the arms are here, stay there rather than trying to force them up by the ears, and then bring the arms back down by the side. And then bring the arms forward again for Anguli Asana. Interlace the fingers, turn the palms away from you, and then think of extending the arms again upwards towards the ceiling. Once there, grip the outer upper arms towards each other, look up towards the hands, but imagine there's a hook on your breastbone, just lengthening the front of the body as you look up towards the hands, and then bring the head and eyes back onto the horizon. And just think of turning the little finger sides of the hands down towards the floor behind you as you root up towards the ceiling through the base of the thumb. And then release the arms halfway down, change the interlace to your other interlace, turn the palms away, and then once more extend the arms up towards the ceiling. Okay. Grip the elbows towards each other, and then think of that hook on the breastbone as you just look up towards the hands. So you're just helping to lengthen the front body, and then bring the head and eyes back onto the horizon. And again, just try to turn the little finger sides down towards the floor behind you as you root up through the root of the thumb. Jaw nice and relaxed, breath nice and easy, and then carefully release the arms back down by the side. So keep the feet together today. Last week we did Uttanasana with the feet hip distance apart, but see if you can keep the feet together. And you remember from the previous weeks, in this chair position, chair pose, you want to try and keep the head of the shin back. So you see, if I drop forward, the weight comes into the knee. So try to keep the head of the shin back, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, bring the arms forward as you sit the pelvis back into an imaginary chair. Good. And keep breathing, looking forward, and then carefully come back up. Good. So Uttanasana, sometimes called fierce pose or chair pose. So just come back into Tadasana. Think again of keeping the head of the shins back. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, see if you can sit down into that imaginary chair. Now, I have a habit of shifting off my right hip, so if that's the case for you, mentioning no names, see if you can sit down into Uttanasana, bringing the arms forward, and then carefully come back up. Good. Excuse me, just roll the shoulders back in Tadasana. And then third and final time, take a good breath in. As you breathe out, think of the bottom sitting back in space. You're trying to keep the head of the shin back as you extend the arms forward, looking forward on the horizon. And then carefully come back up to standing. Good. Now just separate the feet again to hip distance apart. And then think of bringing the weight onto your right leg. So you just shift the pelvis over a little bit, but careful you're not pushing the hip out. So you keep that outer hip in. Turn your left leg out. So the foot turns, the knee turns, the inner thigh turns to the outer thigh. And see if you can just rest that foot above the other ankle for kind of a preparatory tree pose. Try to keep the knee moving out to the side, and if you have your balance, think of taking the arms up towards the ceiling for Virabhadrasana or tree pose. Keep the outer upper arms rolling in, keep the jaw nice and relaxed, the breath nice and easy, and then release the arms down by the side, bring the left foot back down, bring the weight back onto two legs. Just check that you've not been holding the breath. And then when you are ready, bring the weight over onto your left leg. Again, keep the outer hip sucked in so you're not pushing out into the hip. Turn the right leg out and see if you can bring that foot just to rest above the ankle. It's always much more wobbly for me on this leg than the other one. Once you have your balance and the breath is easy, the jaw is nice and relaxed, see if you can take both arms up carefully into Virabhadrasana, outer upper arms in, just breathing here. If you feel you're a little bit wobbly, don't worry, keep the root of the big toe pressing down the four corners of the feet just to help you stabilise on that leg. And then release the arms back down, bring the other leg down and come back to balancing onto two legs once more. So that version, that's kind of the basic version of tree pose, which you're welcome to stay with. But for others, we're going to try the more classical version of the pose now. So take your time, bring the weight over onto your right leg again, careful not to push out into the hip. Turn the whole of the left leg out and see if you can bring that foot to rest at the root of the inner thigh, as far up as you can. If you can't comfortably get it that high, then just go back to the earlier position. The one thing you don't want to do is to press the foot into the standing leg knee and put strain into the knee. Once you have your balance, see if you can take the arms up, either one arm or two arms, into Virabhadrasana, outer upper arms in, eyes nice and soft, the gaze nice and soft, breath nice and easy. Good. And then release, just bring the arms back down, and then just take a moment just to rest in Tadasana, and then see, can you bring the weight over onto your left leg? I'm mirroring, so it gets a little bit confusing sometimes. So onto the left leg, keep the outer hip sucked in, turn the right leg out, and when you're ready, see if you can bring this foot, the right foot, to rest at the root of the left inner thigh. Press the foot into the inner thigh and resist the inner thigh back into the sole of the foot. And then when you are ready, see if you can take both arms up towards the ceiling into Virabhadrasana. Again, outer upper arms rolling in, breath nice and easy, gaze nice and soft. Such a nice balance challenge of Virabhadrasana. And then carefully bring the arms back down, bring the leg back down, and bring the weight back onto the two legs. So come back to having the feet together in Tadasana, in the middle of your mat. Just roll the shoulders back again, And then bring the middle fingers to touch in the centre of the chest. Bend the knees and take the feet nice and wide, ready for Teeter Trikanasana. So again, try to have the ankles more or less underneath the wrists. I can see I need to go a bit wider. And then just be careful you're not lifting the shoulders up. See if you can support the arms from the back. And then turn your left foot slightly in. So I just lift the front of the foot, turn the front of the foot in. Keep that leg very firm as you turn the whole of the right leg out. So the inner thigh, the knee and the foot all turn towards the right. And you remember from last week, we're just working on this point not to cock into the back outer hip. Keep that outer hip sucked in. And then extend the right arm all the way up towards the ceiling. And see, can you press into that back outer foot to lengthen the whole of the right side from the back outer foot to that right arm. And then begin to reach out into the space to the right. So you're trying to lengthen the underneath body, and then you bring the hand just somewhere you can comfortably rest it on the right leg, other hand on the outer hip. Now, most important thing is to keep the legs straight. So often the front leg will bend, so keep the thigh muscles pulling up. And just to remind you, if you know you hyperextend in the knee, just be very careful you're not pressing that knee back in space. The strengthening of the leg comes from the quadriceps, the thigh muscles mostly. Now try to turn the navel, turn the chest, and take the left shoulder back in space. And then if you have the balance, take the left arm up just in line with the collarbone rather than up towards the ceiling. And just make sure you're rolling the left shoulder back, so both shoulders are nice and open. And then if you have your balance, turn to see the top hand. But if you're a bit wobbly, you can either stay looking down at the right big toe or straight forward. Check that your back of the head is in line with the sacrum, that you're not doing banana asana, head coming forward and tailbone back. Good. And then inhale to come up with both arms. Bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the middle, back to Tadasana. And just notice when you come back to Tadasana, probably one side feels a little bit different from the other. I feel as though my left side's got a little, my right side has got longer than my left side. Good. And then let's go to the other side. So you bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step the feet nice and wide apart. So you can keep the arms extended today. And once you have taken the legs wide, turn the right foot slightly in, and then turn the whole of the left leg out. So inner thigh, knee and toes all facing the same way. Again, careful to keep the right outer hip sucked in. And then extend the left arm towards the ceiling and press into the back foot. So you're trying to lengthen the whole of the left side. And then you begin to reach out into the space to the left to bring the hand down just somewhere you can comfortably reach. If the lower the hand goes, the more the risk that you lose the alignment of the back of the head and the tailbone. So if you need to come up higher to keep that alignment, that's absolutely fine. Turn the right shoulder back, so try to turn the chest, navel, ribs and shoulders turning towards the ceiling, and then take the top arm up just in line with the collarbone if you can. Careful that you're not rolling the shoulder forward. And then try to see the top hand with the bottom eye and breathe. Is your jaw nice and relaxed? If you feel strain in the neck muscles, which it probably means the head is tilting down, so you can think of lifting up through the left ear to help keep that alignment of the head with the spine. And now inhale to come up with both arms. Bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the middle. And just rest for a moment in Tadasana again, the arms just long by the side. So Teeter Trikanasana, the basic standing pose. And we're just going to take that somewhere else now. So once more, bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees and step the feet nice and wide apart. Turn your left foot in slightly and then turn the whole of the right leg out. Extend the right arm towards the ceiling, press into that back outer foot and come again into Teeter Trikanasana, but try and take the left arm straight up this time. Once you're in Teeter Trikanasana, bring the left hand onto the outer hip and then look down and bend your right leg towards a right angle so that you can bring the right fingers onto the floor beside the little toe side of the right foot. And then think of just moving your right fingers about a foot away and behind the little toe side of the foot. And just see if you can slide or hop your back foot in a little bit so that you're resting on 3 points of support, the hand, the right foot and the left big toe. And just see, can you lift the left big toe an inch or so off the floor? And just see, is this a position where you can balance and breathe, not holding the breath? You can lower and lift a few times. And then once you've just done that, take the leg back and come back up to standing. So you probably have all guessed where this is going, to Ardha Chandrasana, and then bring the legs back to the middle. So again, just a preparatory version of the pose where you work on the balance and the alignment. Just take a moment when you come back into Tadasana to let the breath come back if you've been holding the breath. And then when you're ready, bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees and step the feet nice and wide again. So feet facing forward initially, arms supported by the back. And then turn your right foot in slightly, turn the whole of the left leg out, so inner thigh, knee and foot all turning in the same direction. Take the left arm up towards the ceiling, press into that back leg to get the length in the left side, and once more come into a Teeter Trikanasana, taking the top arm straight up this time. Bring the right hand onto the outer hip, take your time, look down and begin to bend your left knee towards the right angle. So you can bring the left hand down onto the floor and then just move the hand about a foot behind the left foot and away, so you get a broad base of support. And then just slide or hop the back foot in. So again, you're just playing a little bit with the balance in this position. Just seeing, can you maintain this without holding the breath, without clenching the jaw. Just nice, easy breathing. You can just lift and lower the back foot a few times just to challenge the balance. And then once you've explored that, see if you can please come back up to standing. So a good preparatory version of Ardha Chandrasana. Again, so if that was enough for you in terms of balance already, then just repeat that version of the pose. But otherwise we're going to try the more classical version of the pose. So I'm going to step more to the left hand side of my mat just to give me space for the pose. Take your feet nice and wide apart for standing pose. Turn your left foot in slightly and turn the whole of the right leg out. Extend the right arm up towards the ceiling. Press into the back foot to get that length in the whole of the right side. and see if you can reach out into the space to the right and bring yourself into Teeter Trikanasana, top arm up. Bring the left hand again onto the outer hip and begin to bend the right leg towards the right angle again, so you can bring the right hand onto the floor in the way that we just explored. When you're ready, slide or hop the back foot in. Again, just pause here, make sure you're not holding the breath. And then see, can you extend? You lift the left leg hip height as you straighten the right leg. And then really work on lengthening the right calf into the right heel, so this back leg, lifted leg, is active. It's super active. And then just see if you can turn the chest towards the ceiling and the shoulders too. And then if you can, you take the left arm up towards the ceiling, again in line with the collarbone. And if you're feeling very brave and want to look up with the head and eyes, then please try that. But I'm staying looking down because I'm talking at the same time. Just see if you can balance here in Ardha Chandrasana or Halfmoon Pose. And then carefully come up, bring yourself back to standing, and then come back to Tadasana, Ardha Chandrasana. It's lovely, lovely pose. So just come back to Tadasana, and then we'll try and go to the other side. So I'm going to step over to the right hand side of my mat. Bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then step your feet nice and wide apart. Okay. Turn your right foot in slightly. Turn the whole of the left leg out. Make sure the left leg is straight to begin with. Extend the left arm up towards the ceiling and find, if you can, the connection between pressing down into that back foot to lengthen the whole left side of the body. And then begin to reach out into the space to the left to once more come into Teeter Trikanasana. And then bring your right hand onto the outer hip. Again, take your time going into this pose. And then begin to bend the left leg towards the right angle. So you can bring the hand down onto the floor. And then once you've done that, just slide or hop the back foot in. Just pause there to make sure you're not holding the breath. And then when you're ready, see if you can extend through both legs at the same time. Really press down into the big toe of the left foot to help you stabilise in the pose, and try to lengthen the right calf into the right heel. And then try to turn the chest towards the ceiling, and if you're able to, take the top arm up. Just careful you're not throwing the top arm behind you, and breathe. Just see if you can have a few breaths in the pose. And then when you're ready, carefully come out of the pose and come back up to standing in Tadasana. Well done. Ardha is an Ardha pose. Ardha Chandrasana is an Ardha pose. So Teeter Trikanasana, one of the classic standing poses. We're just going to now explore Virabhadrasana 1, which is a slightly different use of the legs and the hips. So we can do it together. So bring the middle fingers to touch again in front of the chest. Bend the knees and then step the feet standing pose distance apart. And once there, bring the hands onto the outer hips. Just roll the shoulders back to help open the chest. And then bring your attention to your left foot again, and then lift the front of the foot and turn the foot well in this time. So you Teeter Trikanasana, we just turn it in a little, but this time with Virabhadrasana 1, you want to turn the leg well in, because the action in the legs is more internal rotation, whereas your Teeter Trikanasana is external rotation. If your leg hasn't turned enough, lift the back heel and stretch it further away from you. It will help with the turning. And then once you've turned the left leg, turn the right leg all the way out. So right leg is just as the previous pose with Teeter Trikanasana. The right leg turns out. And then keep the hands on the hips. And if you're anything like me, my pelvis is still facing fairly forward towards the screen. So I think of using my hands as though the pelvis is a steering wheel to draw the right side of the pelvis back and the left side forward. You can see the stripe on my pants now as I've turned the pelvis is facing more towards the screen. So you turn the chest, right side of the pelvis back, left side of the pelvis forward. Now it's very common to grip the left buttock back, and you see if I do that it prevents the turn, so you have to release the left buttock flesh away from the tailbone and away from the sacrum to help you turn a little bit more. Good. And once you've done that, try to lift the tummy, lift the chest as you look forward, and then carefully come back to centre, bring the legs back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the middle, back into Tadasana. I just want to show you something about Virabhadrasana 1 just before we go to the other side, and it means I'm going to show you something from behind. So imagine I'm coming into Virabhadrasana 1 and I have to turn the hips. Just as with Teeter Trikanasana and Virabhadrasana, you have to be careful as you've turned the hips that you're not pushing the forward leg hip out. See how what's happening there to get into the pose. You have to keep that outer hip sucked in. So with that in mind, we'll go to the other side. So bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then step your feet standing pose distance apart. Bring the hands onto the outer hip and just draw the shoulders and the elbows back to help open the chest. Now lift the front of the right foot and turn the leg well in. And again, if you need to, most of us do, lift the heel and take it further back. Once you've adjusted that leg, turn the left leg all the way to the left. So the foot, the knee and the thigh all facing towards the left. And you can see again, my pelvis is still turned towards the front. So imagine you've got that steering wheel again. You draw the left side of the pelvis back and allow the right side of the pelvis to come forward. And careful, you're not gripping the right buttock back to the bone, so you have to let that flesh release. And you may feel as you do that the back heel becomes light. So see if you can keep the turn in the pelvis, but root down into that back heel. It's a strong stretch for the back calf muscles. And then make sure your tummy is lifted so it's not a back bend and you're looking forward. Good. And then carefully release, bend the knees, and then come back to centre. So Virabhadrasana 1, again just a preparatory version of the pose. Now we'll take it into the more classic version. So bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then step the feet nice and wide apart again. Bring the hands onto the hips, just as we did, roll the shoulders back. Lift the left foot and turn that leg well in. And if you need to, again, lift the heel and take it further back. Plant the heel down into the floor. Turn the right leg all the way to the right. And then use your hands to help steer the pelvis towards the right. So pelvis, chest, all faces towards the right. Being careful you're releasing the left buttock flesh away from the tailbone. Now from here, begin to bend your forward leg towards the right angle, but try and keep the turn of the hips. It will want to give way, so try and keep the turn of the hips. Make sure your right knee doesn't overshoot the ankle. And then once there, see if you can bring the arms forward and up into Virabhadrasana arms towards the ceiling. As the arms go up, you have to work doubly hard to keep the lower tummy lifted against the spine, so this doesn't become a pressure into the lower back. And then if you have your balance, look up towards the ceiling, but otherwise stay looking forward into the space ahead of you. Good. Keep breathing, keep extending the arms up, and then carefully straighten the forward leg, bring the arms back down, and then bring yourself back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to Tadasana. You can just roll the shoulders back, take a moment in Tadasana to allow the breath to return, and then we'll go to the other side. So bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step your feet standing pose distance apart. Bring the hands onto the outer hips, roll the shoulders back, try to draw the elbows together behind you, and then turn the right foot well in. Again, you can lift the heel and stretch it further behind you to assist with that, and then turn the left leg all the way to the left. And again, use the hands to help draw the left side of the pelvis back in space as the right side turns forward. Careful not to grip the right buttock flesh, you have to let it release away. Good. You want the pelvis to be facing forward and the chest to be facing forward. And then carefully begin to bend your left leg towards the right ankle. Just careful again the knee doesn't overshoot the ankle, and keep working on that turn of the pelvis. Once there, lift the lower tummy up and back towards the spine, and then if you have the balance, take the arms up into Ardha arms. Try to make sure you're not pushing out into the left outer hip. You want to keep that outer hip in. And then if you're able to, look up towards the ceiling, but lift the tummy up to assist you with that. Good. And then begin to look forward, bring the arms back down, bring yourself back to the centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the middle. And then just rest once more in Tadasana, allowing the breath to return. Good. And now please come down onto the floor. You might be pleased to hear. Good. And then, do you remember last week we did this manoeuvre where you were just sitting and with the legs bent, and then you had the hands behind you, but you turn the fingers towards the space behind you. And you try and bring the hands as close together as you comfortably can behind you. My feet are at least hip distance, shoulder distance apart, and the legs are bent. And then when you're ready, see if you can just pick up the pelvis and slide it a little bit towards the feet. It's a strong stretch for the front part of the shoulder, and then you come back. So don't force anything, it's not worth it, but then see if you can just do this again. So pick up the pelvis, see if you can slide the bottom towards the heels, looking forward, and then come back. And again, so you take a breath in, as you breathe out, see if you can just slide the pelvis towards the heels, and then come back. Now, just give your wrists a break for a second from that position. And then if you're, once you've just given them a break, bring the hands back, and maybe now you're able to take them a little bit further behind you and a little bit closer together. But to do that, you need to pinch the shoulder blades together behind you. So please don't force anything. It isn't worth it under any circumstances. And now some of you might be able to take the feet a little bit further away from you as well, and just see again, can you reach the pelvis towards the heels and then come back. Good. And then again, let's see if you can slide the pelvis towards the heels and then come back. Good. I'm just going to do one more. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, see if you can slide the bottom towards the heels and just breathe here and then come back. Good. And then just pause and give your wrists a little bit of a break from that work. And then once you've had sufficient rest, bring the hands to the floor beside you again, but this time have the fingers facing forward. So my legs are bent, still hip distance apart or shoulder distance apart. And then stay looking forward, stay looking forward. If you need to have a look at this before doing it, then of course take your time to do that. And think of just drawing the shoulder blades together behind you to help lift and open the chest. And then you take a breath in, and as you breathe out, press the feet down into the floor and lift your buttocks up towards the ceiling. Stay looking forward, do not hang the head back, stay looking forward and really press down into the feet to lift the pelvis. If you find that your pelvis is dipping, it means you're hanging onto your hip flexors, and the way around that is to drive the heels down into the floor and think of squeezing your bottom for all it's worth to engage the glutes. And then release the pelvis back down and just let your wrists have a little bit of a rest again. Good. And once you've given the wrists a little bit of a break, we're just going to do it one more time. Bring the hands by the hips, have the fingers facing forward. Think of rolling the shoulder blades together behind you, elbows drawing together behind you. So there's a hook on my breastbone, lifting it up towards the ceiling. Take a good breath in, and as you breathe out, drive the heels down into the floor, squeeze your bottom, keep the hips lifted high, but stay looking forward. Good, and then release the bottom back down. Good. Make sure you have a belt nearby, and then come to lie down on your back. So that pose, engaging the gluteal area to lift the pelvis, hopefully by engaging the gluteal area it means your hip flexors have been told to let go. So we'll just see if we can take advantage of that little window. Fold your right leg in towards you. Use your hands around the head of the shin just to draw the thigh in as close as you comfortably can. Check that your lower tummy is drawn back towards the spine. So you want your lower back to flatten down towards the floor, and then keep that engagement as you just slide the left leg away from you on the floor. You lengthen the left calf into the left heel, and check your wrists and shoulders and chest are nice and soft, and then just breathe here for this stretch for the hip flexor muscles. So I'm hoping that felt fairly easy after the pose we just did. It was just sort of, you see, if I contract my bicep muscles, my tricep muscles release automatically, and if I contract my triceps, my biceps release, and that's the kind of phenomena we've just been exploiting to open out the hip flexors. Good. Now pause, bring the left leg in all the way towards the chest, transfer the hands onto the left leg, pull that thigh in as close to the torso as you possibly can. Keep the tummy in as you put the right foot down, and then see if you can lengthen the right leg, the right heel away from you on the floor. And once the leg is as long as you can make it, really think of lengthening the right calf into the right heel. Okay, just breathe here, nice and easily, checking the shoulders are nice and relaxed and the wrists are as soft as possible too. Just breathe, breathe, breathe. And then pause, bring the right foot back to standing, put the left foot down, and then take hold of your belt if you have it. So I'm having a long belt, not looped belt, just a nice long belt. And then lie back down again, keep both legs bent and fold your right leg back in towards you. So fold it in close towards you. Put the belt around the ball of the foot or the arch of the foot. Have a strand of the belt in either hand, and once you've drawn the thigh in close to the body, just think you're sliding the right foot up a wall to lengthen the leg towards the ceiling. Now, if you can't have the leg straight towards the ceiling, just angle it away from you a bit. Wherever you can have the leg straight is the place to be. Don't strain to have it up towards the ceiling. But now use the belt to help you. So think of the little toe side of the belt, drawing the little toe side of the foot down to the outer knee and the outer hip. And think of pressing the big toe side of the foot up into the belt. Thigh muscles active. Draw the thigh muscles down to the bone and the floor, and then slide the hands down the belt till your elbows can make contact into the floor, and then just tuck the shoulder blades into the back of the body. And now pull in the lower tummy, and if you can, lengthen out the left leg too. So left leg is long, right leg is long, just breathing here in Supta Padangusthasana 1. Careful you're not sinking the breastbone and shortening through the back of the neck. So keep length in the back of the neck. Just nice, easy breathing. We're aiming to hold this pose for at least 8 to 10 breaths because we're challenging the hamstrings to lengthen. They're big muscles, so you just need to give them a little bit more time. Now take hold of the belt with your right hand as close to the foot as possible. And then let the left arm go out to the side at about shoulder height for a bit of counterbalance. If your right shoulder has come away from the floor, just have a sense of drawing it back to the floor without letting the hand on the belt move. So if you weren't feeling the hamstring stretch before, you probably are now. Good. And then carefully begin to take the leg off to the right, but keep the left side of the pelvis down. So imagine there's a big weight on the left side of the pelvis, keeping that down. Now my cabinet is in the way, so I'm just going to rest the leg on there. Some of you will be able to get the leg further. But to remind you, it's not about getting the foot to the floor. It's more about keeping the leg travelling in the direction of the head for Supta Padangusthasana 2. To see if you can breathe here, keeping the left side of the pelvis heavy. And then carefully bring the leg back to centre, release, and then we'll change legs. So we're doing Supta Padangusthasana 1 into Supta Padangusthasana 2. So start with the legs bent again, and then fold your left leg in towards you. So draw it in close towards you. Put the belt around the sole of the foot or the ball of the foot. Have a strand of the belt in either hand to begin with, and draw the thigh in close to the chest. And then imagine your foot is just resting, left foot is against a wall, and you just slide the foot up the wall to allow the leg to lengthen. Again, use the belt, draw the little toe side of the foot down to the outer knee and outer hip, and lengthen through the inner thigh to the inner knee to the inner ankle and the big toe. Slide the hands down the belt till the elbows make contact. Keep the tummy drawn in as you lengthen the right leg away from you if your back allows to Supta Padangusthasana 1. Just breathe here, check the jaw is nice and relaxed, the eyes nice and soft. Okay, you always want the hamstrings at least 8 to 10 breaths. Breathing. Good. And then when you're ready, take hold of the belt with the left hand as close to the foot as you possibly can, and you can allow the left shoulder to come away from the floor, but once you've found the position for the hand, draw the shoulder back down towards the floor, so really get the hamstring work then. Take the right hand out to the side for a bit of counterbalance. Imagine there is a big weight keeping the right side of your pelvis down, and begin to take the leg off to the side. But as it goes to the side, draw it towards the head, draw it towards the head. Some of you will be able to have the elbow resting down onto the floor, but it doesn't matter if you don't. But think of the navel, the ribs and the chest turning to the right as the leg goes to the left. Just nice, easy breathing. Good. And then carefully bring the leg back towards the ceiling. Release the leg. Good. And then bend both knees and come to lie on your left hand side. Keep the belt fairly nearby, you might need it. So I lengthen my left arm along the floor, the palm is turned down towards the ceiling, towards the floor, and have both legs stacked on top of each other, and you might just want to bring the feet slightly forward of the line of the body. Now bend the left arm so you can rest the head in the left palm. Other hand is just giving you a bit of balance here. And then think of bending your right leg and turning that leg out. So I slide the foot up the left leg till that foot comes to the root of the left inner thigh. Try to keep the knee pointing up towards the ceiling. So we're back in Virabhadrasana or tree pose, the side-lying version. Now, if you're going to use the belt, you can just hook the belt around the foot or the ankle, or foot probably the best, so you just have a grip on the belt near the ankle. Others will be able to wrap the first and second toes around the right big toe and the thumb, but belt is absolutely fine. So just see if you can be stable here first of all without losing balance. So if you're finding yourself rolling to the back, you want to think of the pelvis lifting up and pushing the knee up towards the ceiling. Now if you're able to, you bring the thigh, the knee towards the armpit. See, I'm bringing the knee towards the armpit, and then think, can you lengthen the leg up towards the ceiling? If you find again you're dropping back, lift up through the pelvis to lengthen the leg up, and the left leg press down into the floor. Keep breathing. Imagine we're on a beach in Barbados or somewhere, just trying to signal the waiter that we're waiting for our drinks to be delivered. Good. And then release. Good. Okay. Just come back into the side lying position, and then please come on to your other side. So I'm going to flip round to the other side just so I can stay looking at the screen. So my right arm, I lengthen it away from you first. What that does, it helps to open the armpit area. Stack the legs on top of each other, and just, if necessary, bring them slightly forward to help with the balance. And then you bend the underneath arm so you can rest the hand in the palm of the head in the palm of the hand. And then begin to bend and turn out your left leg, and you can use the hand just to plant that foot into the inner thigh. Okay, if you're dropping back, lift up through the pelvis and the sacrum as if you're trying to lift the knee up towards the ceiling, and if you press down into the lengthened leg, that will help you. See if you can reach either with the belt or the first and second fingers to take hold of the big toe, and then think of bringing the knee towards the armpit first. So you bring the knee in close, and then again you think of sliding the foot up a wall to lengthen the leg up towards the ceiling. If you're dropping back, lift up through the pelvis. Lengthen the calves of both legs towards the heels and breathe. And then carefully release, bring the foot back down, good. Lengthen the leg, release, good. And then support yourself to carefully come up to sitting. Good. Now, you might just want to sit on a blanket, a thin blanket for the next pose, it's a sitting pose. So I've got a thinly folded blanket. Be thinner actually, and then sit once more in Swastikasana, so the pose that we began the class with, and just notice which leg is closest to you. So I've got my right leg closer to me than the left, and then see if you can just walk the feet further out to the side so that the heels are more underneath the thighs. But whereas before it was loose cross legs, here you're trying to bring the feet more underneath the thighs. It makes a tighter pose, does something different in the hips. Good. Now I'll just turn to show you from the side, and then press the heels out to the side. So you're not resting on the metatarsals, it's the little toe side of the foot that is bearing the weight. Bring the hands to the floor beside you, fingers facing forward, and think of lengthening up through the spine. So push the lower tummy forward, crown of the head lengthening up towards the ceiling. And then see, can you begin to bring the hands forward of the legs. Now, for some, this is plenty far enough. You'll be feeling the stretch in the hips. But for others, think of a hook, drawing your breastbone forward, and see if you can allow the head to release down towards the floor. Doesn't matter if it doesn't get to the floor, but do let the head go. So, but keep the heels pressing out to the side for Adho Mukha Swastikasana. Keep breathing, keep the heels pressing out to the side. Good. And then look forward, walk the hands back so you support the back to come out of the position. And then please change the cross of the legs. So your other leg is closest to you. Again, just walk the feet out to the side so they're more underneath the knees or the thighs. Keep the heels pressing out to the side. Bring the hands to the floor beside you. And again, think of lengthening through the front of the body. Crown of the head lengthening towards the ceiling. And then see if you're able to, can you bring the arms forward? Again, just wherever you feel the edge of the stretch, stay there and breathe. It doesn't matter how far forward you come. It's all very, very individual. So, but others will be able to walk their hands forward. Think of lengthening the front of the body, and some of you will be able to let the head come all the way back down. It doesn't matter how far, but wherever you get to, stay there at the edge and just breathe. Full breaths in, full breaths out. Just nice, easy breathing. Good. And then when you're ready, look forward, walk the hands back to support you, good, and then carefully come up and stretch the legs forward, good. You can shake the back of the knees just to release the back of the legs, good. And then once you've done that, please just move the support to one side and come up onto all fours. Now, I've got a thicker mat, it's one of these thicker yoga mats. If you've got a thinner mat, you might just want a blanket underneath the knees or the shins just to give you a bit of extra padding. So come onto all fours, and then just make sure that your hands are underneath your shoulders and that your thighs are vertical. Good. And then just to help release the back, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, release the head and round the back up towards the ceiling. Inhale, and then as you exhale, think of tipping the tailbone towards the ceiling just to look slightly forward and up. So again, you take a breath in. As you breathe out, round the back up towards the ceiling and allow the head to release. And as you inhale, begin to tip the tailbone up towards the ceiling to look forward. Good. Now stay looking forward and think of your bottom going back, pushing against resistance back towards the heels. But stay looking forward. And then think of your head and eyes coming forward, so your head is bringing the spine forward. And then change that so it's your bottom that's pushing back in space towards the heels as you look forward. And then think of the head and eyes bringing the spine forward. And now this time, push your bottom back towards your right heel, stay looking forward, and then come forward. And then push your bottom back towards your left heel and stay looking forward. So you have to soften in the back of the knees and then come forward. And then push your bottom back towards the right heel again, and just see if you can stay there and imagine you're polishing the right heel with your bottom. So just moving, wiggling the bottom a little bit left and right. You feel how the ribs have to soften, there's a little bit of side bending going on to do that. And then come forward. And then think of your bottom pushing back towards your left heel, so show that towards the left heel, and think you're just polishing that heel with the bottom on that side, and then come forward. And now push your bottom back towards your right heel and see if you can slide the left leg way back behind you. And then come forward again onto all fours and see if you can take the bottom back to in the direction of the left heel as you imagine your right leg is being pulled far and away behind you. And then come forward again, and then once more send the bottom back towards the right heel as you slide that left leg away from you. Good. And then walk the hands in a little bit so you're lifting the front body, and then see, can you just creep the right foot a little bit further out to the right till that heel comes in front of the left side of the pelvis. So if you look at the stripes of my pants, if you can see, the heel is underneath, and now roll the left side of the pelvis into that heel if possible for Pigeon Pose. Good. Look forward, and now for those who want to take this a bit further, see if you can walk the hands forward, Keep the left side of the pelvis pressing into the right heel, and some of you will be able to bring the head down. Wherever you get to is good. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then look forward, walk the hands back to support you, curl the back toes under to release, and then carefully come back onto all fours. Good. Just sit back on your heels if you can. My nephew, age 19, very pleased that he's now mastered Pigeon Pose apparently. Let's do it to the other side. So again, come forward onto all fours. Think of your bottom pressing, so it's as if you're in water or something. You're pressing the pelvis back against resistance towards the left heel as you slide the right leg all the way behind you. Walk the hands in to help you lift the front of the body, and then just see, can you creep the left foot over till that heel just comes in front of the right side of the pelvis, and then you roll the right side of the pelvis into the heel to keep the hips even. Good. Just now, and then some of you will be able to walk the hands forward to lay the front body towards the floor, and then you release the head down. Again, just breathe, breathe, breathe. If you're feeling muscles contracted, just see if you can send the attention and the breath there. And then look forward, walk the hands back towards you to support you. Curl the back toes under so you can just release the pelvis and come back onto all fours. Good. And then bring the big toes together, keep the knees wide. Just see if you can move the bottom back towards the heels, and then lengthen the arms forward again into Ardha Virabhadrasana, releasing the head down. Breathe. Good. And then release. Walk the hands back. Bring the legs forward. And then please get ready for Shavasana. So if you have a bolster for behind the backs of the legs, please take a bolster. If you have a piece of furniture nearby that you want to rest the lower legs over, that's can be a very nice thing to do. Otherwise you can do Shavasana with the legs bent, or if you're more comfortable to do so, then you can lengthen the legs long. Okay. Whichever position. If you have a piece of wall near you, you can always have the legs up the wall. That's a very nice recuperative pose to do at the end of a class. But if you're in Shavasana, long Shavasana like me, without a bolster, you want to just think of using the thumbs to draw the buttock flesh towards the backs of the knees. And then you have the arms down by your side, just comfortably by the side, not jammed into the side. And check you're not shortening through the back of the neck, so you might just need to draw the chin in slightly to do that. If you wear glasses, it's a good idea just to put the glasses to one side if it's safe to do so, and then please close the eyes to come into the pose. Let yourself take a good deep breath in and out. And then maintain the attention on the inhalations and the exhalations, allowing the breath to really come down into the lower part of the abdomen. Allow the eyes to soften, the inner cheeks and the jaw. And with each exhalation, just feel as though you're melting down into the floor. it'd be nice if you could just stay here. I certainly feel as though I'd like to stay here, but just to end the class, please wriggle the fingers and toes. And then when you are ready, please bend the knees. And then roll to whichever side is available to you, just to roll to, and then just rest on whichever side you find yourself. Just pause there for a moment. And then when to come up, try not to hold the breath as you use the hands to support you, just to come and sit easy, cross-legged again, facing the front. Adjust the buttock flesh, support yourself with the hands to lengthen the spine, and then bring the palms into Namaskar-asana. Close the eyes. And then bring the forehead down, release the hands on an inhalation, slowly open the eyes and look up. Thanks very much everybody.